Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your channel of Math and Engineering Made Easy. Today, we are going to have the first session of Algebra 2. In Algebra 2, as you know, you go over it depends on the school, but you go over number systems, which I'm not going to waste time on. You go over linear equations and graphs, straight lines, and parabolas. I think we did those already in Algebra 1. If you want to consult these or review them, they are in the playlist of Algebra 1. However, today I want to start with something that wasn't covered there, which is the absolute value. And then we look at absolute value graphs later. And when I introduce that, I'm going to go back to the straight line. I'm going to show you what we call parent functions. And then I will give you, unless some of you watched some of my videos about graph transformations, I will try to show you a novel way, a different way of figuring out the transformations that occur. I think it would be very easy and it would be complementary to what you learn in school. There you have to memorize some stuff. Here, I promise you, no memorization at all. It's very straightforward. So let's not waste time and start with our first session. Absolute value equations. So when we say absolute value, we are saying that we have a function in math that it takes any number, whether positive or negative, but spits out just a positive answer. What? Yeah, it's as if it boils down everything, makes some calculations. If the answer is positive, it shoots it out for you. If it's negative, it will drop the negative sign and give you the positive. And you may ask why. Maybe there will be some applications that you will see in your future for that. Okay, but for now, let's do it theoretically. So when you see an equation like that, it says the absolute value of p minus 1 equals 4, you have to break it into two possible equations. One of them is exactly like that after you take the absolute value and you say p minus 1 equals 4, and the other one would be p minus 1 equals negative 4. Meaning, if p minus 1 was 4 and I took the absolute value, I will get back 4. If p minus 1 was negative 4 and I took the absolute value of that, it will give me positive 4. So this is like two cases. And I say, what is the absolute value of 3? It's 3. What is the absolute value of negative 3? It's also 3. So it doesn't matter. So you have to break it into two pieces. Of course, you add 1 to both sides here. And you get p equals 5. And here also you add 1 to both sides, and you get p equals negative 3. So the answer would be negative 3 and 5. I think all of these would be similar. I don't see anything hard here, so I may pick few of them. So let's pick number 4, it has a negative sign inside, maybe 6. And because here it's not just P or A or N, we have one with 9 times something. Okay, so we'll do these in this page and then we'll look into next page. By the way, a quick thing I have to tell you. You won't see it here in this worksheet. Let me see. No, there is one. No, I don't see one. Yeah, there is one. I have to pick number 14 to show you something. Okay, so let's go to number 4. Now, what's inside the absolute value stays the same, and the right-hand side stays the same, or negative 1 plus n equals negative 5. Because in both cases, whether it's 5 or negative 5, when I take the absolute value, I will get 5. Now, I'm going to say, again, add 1 to both sides, and you get n equals 6. add 1 to both sides, and get n equals -4. You can put it in this form. It doesn't really matter. In this case, it's the same thing, right? I'm going to say 5 minus b equals 2, or 5 minus b equals -2. In this case, I have to subtract 5 and then divide by -1, right? Do you see that? So, or you can add b to both sides. Like if I add b here and b there, I like b there. And then subtract 2 from both sides. These b's cancel, these 2's cancel, and I get b equals 5 minus 2, b equals 3. And here, again, I'm going to add b to both sides, right? And add 2 to both sides. So now these 2 cancel, those 2 cancel, and I get b, that's b not 6, okay? b equals 7. And you can check your answer. For example, you can say, okay, if this is 5 minus 3, it's 2. Yeah, the absolute value of 2 is 2. Here, if b is 7, 5 minus 7 is -2, but the absolute value of -2 is +2. So it's very easy to do it. Okay, number 7, and then we go to the next page. 9x minus 4 equals 86. 9x minus 4 equals -86. In this case, we're going to add 4 to both sides. So I get 9x equals 90. I'm going to divide by 9 both sides, and I get x equals 10. Here, again, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get -82. And then I'm going to, let's write 9x. I'm going to divide by 9, and I get x equals -82 over 9, or equals -9 and 1/9. Since 81 over 9 is 9, and 82 will have an extra 1. So I think that's it for this page. Let's move to the next page. I picked number 14 for a reason. Let's do some more. So let's take 3 more or something. Let's do this. I don't know. 16, and maybe 17. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Before you take the absolute value, it's better to keep the absolute value by itself. Meaning, I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. Okay, so the left-hand side would be the absolute value of x plus 4 equals -10. And then here you stop. I know that some students will keep working. No, we know that the absolute value doesn't give you any negative value. So the output of that is positive or non-negative, 0 or positive. If the right-hand side is negative, you say no solution. In fact, I didn't see that. I picked number 14 for the same reason, but no solution. Try as you may. Even if you say, oh, let's say x plus 4 is -10 and x plus 4 is 10, and you change the sign, which is not correct, you will get values that doesn't work out here. Okay? Because as I said, if x plus 4 is -10, meaning what would be x plus 4? It cannot output a negative value. The output of this function is greater than or equal to 0. You cannot have an absolute value that spits out a negative value. This is very important, so you have to be careful about that. Same thing here. Here as I said, I didn't see this one, and I said if I divide by -8 both sides, I will get the absolute value of 3 minus 8k equals -5. No solution. Just one word, no solution. You get the full mark. Next one. Okay, here I have a 4 on both sides, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I get negative 9, absolute value of negative 6 minus b equals negative 18. But when I divide by negative 9 both sides, the right-hand side would become positive 2. And now I'm going to say negative 6. I don't care if the values inside are negative. That's okay. Negative 6 minus b equals 2, or negative 6 minus b equals negative 2. And let's see what we get at the end. First of all, I'm going to add b to both sides. And then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I get b equals negative 8. Notice that if b is negative 8 and you are subtracting b, so that negative b would be positive 8. Positive 8 minus 6 is 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. And when you multiply 2 by negative 9, you get negative 18. Negative 18 plus 4 is negative 14. What about this one? I'm going to add b to both sides, and I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I get b equals negative 4. What if b is negative 4? Negative 4 times negative, you get positive 4. Minus 6 is negative 2, but the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. And like before, 2 times negative 9 is negative 18, plus 4 is negative 14. So it works. It doesn't matter if I have negatives inside the absolute value. The important thing is that the output of that is not negative. So another word of caution, don't say, oh, I have a negative equals negative. The absolute value cannot be negative, no solution. You forget that we are multiplying it by negative 9. So after you subtract the 4, and when you divide both sides by negative 9, the right-hand side would be positive. So don't jump to conclusion unless it's clear for you. Nothing else is with the absolute value, but the output is negative. That's impossible. Okay, I know it's not hard. Once you get used to it, you will see that these problems are really pretty straightforward and easy for you to master. Okay, now this one is a little funny because when I subtract 10 from both sides, these cancel and these cancel. So I get negative 3 times the absolute value of 9m plus 2 equals 0. But you have to divide by negative 3 both sides. But when you do that, the right-hand side would still be 0. So here I won't have two answers. 9m plus 2 equals positive 0, and 9m plus 2 equals negative 0. So in both cases, they are 0, and you have a unique answer. Not two answers like whenever I had solution. Okay, so now you subtract 2 from both sides. You get 9m equals negative 2, and then you divide by 9 both sides. So you get m equals negative 2. Notice that if m is negative 2, 2/9, what did I say 2? Okay, when I multiply m, which is negative 2/9, by 9, I get negative 2. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. And 0 times negative 3 is 0. And you get 10 equals 10. Okay? I think that's enough. We covered all the cases when you have a unique solutions or two solutions or no solutions whatsoever if the right-hand side of the absolute value is negative. And again, be careful. Don't just see a negative sign and stop and say no solution. Work it out until the left-hand side is just an absolute value. Just an absolute value, nothing else with it. If I get something like that, b minus 2 equals negative 37, I would say no solution. But here, notice that I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That would be negative 28. And then I'm going to divide by negative 4. So it would be 7. So now it works. So you can have two solutions in this case. I hope this was pretty straightforward. It's the first session. So I said, let's make it easy and quick. And again, I hope you don't have any problems with that. If you do, just leave me a comment in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, I wish you all the best. Hope to see you tomorrow. Have a nice day.